Step back now. Wait right there.
For what, officer?
Just do what I say.
I'm a pediatrician going to work.
I don't care.
This is unlawful. You're making a mistake.
This officer will lose his badge. He will lose his job. And before the year is over, his name will be stamped on a civil settlement worth millions. Money paid not because of what he did with his hands, but because of what he did with his ego. He doesn't know that yet. Right now, all he knows is that someone dared to slow him down. The stop begins the way career-ending stops always do, with impatience disguised as authority. A patrol unit idling outside a children's hospital. A man in scrubs walking with purpose, calm, upright, unhurried, not running, not resisting, not apologizing. And that's the first problem. The officer issues a command that isn't really a command. It's a test, a small demand meant to establish hierarchy. Step back, wait, explain yourself. The man doesn't flinch. He asks a question instead. Not loud, not disrespectful, just clear. For what? That single word shifts the balance of power. This is the moment that will be replayed in court, slowed down, dissected, narrated by experts who will point out that nothing about this interaction required force, urgency, or escalation. This is the moment where the officer's authority is no longer automatic, and his ego notices. You can hear it in the pause. The officer doesn't answer the question. He ignores it. That choice matters. Every veteran cop knows it. When you skip justification, you're no longer enforcing the law. You're enforcing yourself. The man introduces himself. I'm a doctor. Not as a flex, as context. He's dressed for work. Scrubs, ID badge visible. His voice stays even, measured, professional. The same tone he uses with worried parents and crying children. That calm is misread. To the officer, calm doesn't look like cooperation. It looks like defiance wrapped in confidence. And confidence, especially when it comes from someone who isn't supposed to have it, feels like insolence. The danger to the officer's career begins here, not with the handcuffs, but with the internal calculation he makes next. He could disengage. He could clarify. He could de-escalate. Instead, he tightens his voice. I don't care. Those 3 words will cost him everything. They reveal something prosecutors and civil attorneys love: intent, not legal intent, personal intent. The refusal to consider context, the dismissal of explanation, the moment authority becomes predatory. The doctor doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't insult the officer, he doesn't reach, he doesn't step forward. He stands his ground. I'm going to work. It's not a challenge, it's a statement of fact, and it lands like a slap. Now the officer is no longer controlling a scene, he's competing inside it. His jaw tightens as his authority is questioned by someone who isn't afraid of him, someone who doesn't sound nervous, someone who knows how systems work. That's when the threat appears. You're going to jail if you keep talking. This is where the stop crosses from enforcement into punishment. Talking is not a crime. Explaining yourself is not resistance, but threats are useful when justification is weak. The doctor names it. You're detaining me without cause. That sentence is lethal. It signals education, awareness, a man who understands rights and isn't intimidated by uniforms. In that instant, the officer realizes he's not dealing with someone who will fold, and instead of backing off, he doubles down. Last warning. This is the moment the narrator would later circle in red, because warnings are supposed to prevent harm, not create excuses for it. When a warning comes without a lawful order behind it, it's not a safeguard, it's a setup. The doctor's response is quiet. This is unlawful. No profanity, no aggression, just a calm diagnosis. That calmness becomes a weapon. It exposes the imbalance. The officer is emotional now. His authority is no longer invisible, it's strained. You can hear him trying to end the conversation, not because the situation is dangerous, but because it's slipping out of his control. Turn around. That command isn't based on probable cause, it's based on irritation. and irritation is poison in court. The doctor says the words that will echo through depositions and news headlines. You're making a mistake. He's right, but the officer can't hear that anymore. His ego is driving, and ego doesn't reverse, it accelerates. No, I'm ending this. In that line, everything collapses. The officer isn't enforcing the law, he's ending a challenge, ending a feeling, ending discomfort. He believes control is the same as resolution. It isn't, because while the cuffs click shut, something else clicks open. A chain reaction the officer can't see yet. Hospital administrators watching from windows, bystanders recording phones, internal systems flagging the arrest of a pediatrician outside a children's hospital. And somewhere, quietly, a supervisor's radio chirps just once. A signal that this scene is no longer his alone. By the time the handcuffs lock, the officer believes he's regained control. That belief will destroy him. The doctor doesn't resist. His shoulders stay relaxed, his breathing steady. He doesn't argue when the metal bites into his wrists. He simply turns his head slightly, enough to keep eye contact, and says nothing. Silence can be more dangerous than shouting, because silence forces the officer to fill it himself. "Walk," the officer snaps. The command is sharp, unnecessary. The doctor complies anyway. Each step toward the patrol car is deliberate, almost ceremonial. Scrubs rustle, shoes scrape concrete. Hospital staff have stopped pretending not to watch. A nurse freezes near the entrance, badge still swinging from her neck. A security guard shifts his weight, unsure whether to intervene. A parent holding a child slows down, eyes wide, absorbing a scene that will be replayed later in news clips and court exhibits. And that's when the second mistake forms. Instead of shrinking under scrutiny, his posture grows rigid, his chest lifts, authority hardens. This is no longer about a single arrest, it's about saving face in front of witnesses. Career danger spikes here, because public arrests demand precision, and precision requires calm. The officer has neither. The doctor speaks again, calmly, almost clinically. "Can you tell me why I'm being arrested?" It's a reasonable question, the kind that forces officers to articulate cause, to anchor action to law, the kind departments train for. The officer doesn't answer. He opens the cruiser door with more force than necessary. The sound echoes across the hospital drive. He angles the doctor's head down, not because it's required, but because it feels corrective, a subtle assertion of dominance. That motion alone will later be dissected frame by frame. Advocates will pause it, replay it, ask why a compliant man needed to be guided like a threat. The doctor doesn't stumble. He sits, calm, dignified, controlled. That composure is poison to the officer's narrative, because nothing about it matches danger, nothing about it justifies urgency, and everyone watching can feel the mismatch. The officer starts talking again, fast now, defensive. "You didn't comply. You refused lawful orders. You escalated this." Each sentence is louder than the last, not for the doctor, but for the invisible audience forming in his mind, the report he hasn't written yet, the supervisor he knows is listening somewhere. This is the third critical moment for his career. When officers narrate their own justification in real time, it's often because they're trying to convince themselves. The doctor listens. He nods once. "I complied with everything. I asked questions." That distinction matters. Questions are not resistance. Courts have said it. Policies reflect it. Training manuals repeat it. But ego hears something else. "You're not going to lecture me," the officer snaps. There it is. The conflict is no longer legal. It's personal. The officer steps back from the cruiser and keys his radio. His voice changes, controlled, official. Too late. "Dispatch, I have one in custody, requesting a supervisor." That request is framed like routine. It isn't. Supervisors are requested when officers sense exposure, when something feels off,
when a situation might need insulation, and the doctor knows it. He leans back slightly in the seat, careful with the cuffs. His voice stays level. Please note the time and my location.
That sentence lands like a legal filing. Now the officer's danger multiplies because the doctor isn't just calm, he's documenting every word, every pause, every choice. The officer turns away, pretending not to hear, but his shoulders are tense now, his movements less certain. Inside the hospital, administrators are already making calls. Security footage is being bookmarked, IDs are being checked, names are being whispered. Outside, someone lifts a phone higher. The officer notices. "Step back," he orders the crowd. No one moves. They don't challenge him. They don't argue. They simply keep watching. That quiet refusal strips power faster than shouting ever could. The supervisor's ETA crackles through the radio. Minutes feel longer when confidence is gone. The officer paces once, then stops. He adjusts his belt, straightens his vest. These are unconscious gestures, attempts to reassemble authority that's starting to fracture. He looks back at the doctor. "You could have avoided this," he says. The line is almost pleading. The doctor meets his eyes through the glass. "So could you." That exchange will never make it into the police report, but it will make it into testimony, into headlines, into a lawsuit that names not just an officer, but a department. The supervisor's unit pulls in. Red and blue reflections ripple across the hospital walls. Doors open, footsteps approach. And as the supervisor takes in the scene, the cuffs, the scrubs, the silent witnesses, the officer feels it. The shift. The moment when this stops being his call. The radio chirps again, and the doctor exhales, slow, controlled, knowing the real fight is just beginning. The supervisor doesn't speak right away. That silence is deliberate. He scans the scene the way seasoned commanders do, starting with the obvious, then moving to what doesn't belong. A man in handcuffs wearing pediatric scrubs, a patrol officer standing too stiff, too alert, too ready to explain himself. Witnesses lingering instead of dispersing. This is already wrong. "Who's in custody?" the supervisor asks. The officer answers too quickly. His words stack on top of each other, compressed, rehearsed, defensive. Subject refused commands, became argumentative, interfering with hospital operations. The supervisor's eyes don't leave the doctor. "And you, sir?" he asks calmly. The doctor doesn't rush. He doesn't interrupt. He waits until the officer finishes burying himself. "I'm a pediatrician," he says. "I was walking into my shift. I asked why I was being detained." No embellishment, no emotion, just sequence. This is where careers bleed, because now there are two narratives and only one of them sounds measured. The supervisor glances at the officer's body cam, the small blinking light, still recording, still honest. "Why was he detained?" the supervisor asks again, this time slower. The officer swallows. He wouldn't comply. Comply with what? A pause. The officer's jaw tightens, stepping back. The supervisor nods once. That nod is not agreement, it's confirmation of something else. And why did he need to step back? Another pause. Longer. The hospital doors slide open behind them. A senior administrator steps out, flanked by security. Their badges gleam under the lights. Their presence shifts the gravity of the scene. The officer feels it now, the weight of context crashing down on him. Children, families, optics. The supervisor exhales quietly through his nose. "Remove the cuffs," he says. The officer blinks. "Sir?" "Remove the cuffs." That order is surgical, calm, final. The metal comes off slower than it went on. Each click is audible. Each second stretches. The doctor rubs his wrists once. No drama, no complaint, just documentation in motion. "I'd like the names and badge numbers of everyone involved," the doctor says. The officer looks at the supervisor. The supervisor nods. "Of course," he says. That nod seals the future, because now this isn't an incident, it's a record. The officer steps back, suddenly unsure where to stand. His authority has evaporated, replaced by exposure. Every movement he made is now evidence. Every word he spoke is searchable. The supervisor turns to the administrator. "We'll need to review footage," the administrator says, "and notify legal." Legal. That word hits harder than any reprimand. The officer stares at the pavement. He knows what legal means. Internal affairs, depositions, days off the street that turn into weeks, weeks into months. The doctor straightens his scrubs. "I'll be late for my patients," he says quietly. That sentence does more damage than any accusation, because it reframes the harm, not to him, but to children. The supervisor nods again. "We'll escort you inside." As they walk toward the entrance, the officer remains behind, forgotten, isolated, a uniform without authority. Phones lower, whispers begin. By morning, the footage will be online. By nightfall, the department will issue a statement. Within weeks, attorneys will file papers that list damages in 8 figures, and the officer, once so certain, so absolute, will sit alone, replaying a single moment in his head. Not the cuffs, not the crowd, but the question he never answered. For what?